At his peak, Napoleon Bonaparte ruled over nearly 70 million people. He fought over 60 major battles. He lost fewer than 10. He rose from an unknown island nobody cared about to become the most feared man on earth. So how did a poor, mocked outsider rewrite the rules of war, overthrow kings, and dominate Europe? And why did the same man, who seemed unstoppable, end his life trapped on a lonely rock in the middle of the ocean? This is not just a story of conquest. It's a warning about ambition. And the deeper you go, the darker it gets. Napoleon Bonaparte isn't just a historical figure. He is a blueprint. Modern armies study him. Governments still use his laws. Leaders still try to copy his rise. He didn't just win battles. He changed how power works. Before Napoleon, wars were slow and predictable. After Napoleon, war became fast, brutal, and psychological. Before Napoleon, kings ruled by blood. After Napoleon, talent could overthrow thrones. But here's the twist. The same qualities that made him unstoppable were the exact traits that destroyed him. To understand that, we have to go back to the beginning, to a boy nobody believed in. Napoleon was born in 1769 on the island of Corsica, a poor, recently conquered territory. To France, Corsicans were outsiders. To nobles, Napoleon was insignificant. He spoke French badly. He dressed poorly. He had no powerful name. At military school, classmates mocked him relentlessly. They laughed at his accent. They called him small, strange, and angry. Napoleon didn't fight back. He watched, he remembered. While others played, Napoleon read. Ancient battles, Roman generals, Alexander the Great. He wasn't dreaming. He was preparing. Even as a teenager, Napoleon believed something dangerous, that he was meant for greatness. But belief alone means nothing without opportunity. And France was about to explode. In 1789, the French Revolution shattered everything. The king was executed. Nobles were hunted. Generals were imprisoned and killed. France was drowning in chaos, and chaos creates openings. Napoleon, now a young artillery officer, saw what others missed. Artillery wasn't glamorous, but it decided battles. In 1795, royalist forces rose up against the revolutionary government in Paris. Napoleon was given one job: stop them. He didn't negotiate. He didn't hesitate. He ordered cannons loaded with grapeshot. Then he fired into the crowd. The rebellion ended in minutes. Paris was saved, and Napoleon became famous overnight. But that's not the craziest part. Instead of being condemned, he was promoted. Because in a broken world, effectiveness matters more than morality. France had found its weapon, and Napoleon knew it. At just 26 years old, Napoleon was given command of the army of Italy. It was starving, poorly supplied, demoralized. Other generals saw a burden. Napoleon saw an experiment. He spoke directly to his soldiers, promised them glory, food, and loot. Then he moved faster than any army in Europe. He attacked before enemies could coordinate. He split larger forces apart. He struck where least expected. Battle after battle, Napoleon crushed Austrian armies. Europe was stunned. A nobody general was humiliating empires. His soldiers worshipped him. His enemies feared him. Politicians grew nervous. Napoleon wasn't just winning. He was changing the rules. And for the first time, he tasted something intoxicating: adoration. But he wanted more than fame. He wanted immortality. Instead of focusing on Europe, Napoleon did something unexpected. He invaded Egypt, not just for strategy, but for symbolism. He imagined himself as a modern Alexander the Great, a conqueror of civilizations. He brought scientists, historians, and artists. He wanted to be remembered forever. Militarily, the campaign was a disaster. The British destroyed his fleet. His army was stranded in the desert. But Napoleon didn't panic. He did something shocking. He left his army behind and secretly returned to France. And instead of being punished, he was celebrated. Why? Because France was collapsing again. And Napoleon knew how to sell a story. In 1799, France was desperate. Corruption, instability, and fear. Napoleon positioned himself as the savior. Through political manipulation, intimidation, and timing, he overthrew the government. No massive bloodshed. No civil war. Just precision. He became first consul. Then something extraordinary happened. In 1804, Napoleon crowned himself emperor. Not the church, not the people, but himself. It was a declaration. He was above tradition, above kings, above limits, and France accepted it. Because Napoleon delivered what chaos could not. Order, strength, pride, but power has a cost, and Napoleon's hunger was far from satisfied. Europe refused to accept Napoleon's dominance. So Napoleon marched. He crushed coalitions with terrifying efficiency. He moved armies like chess pieces, outthought older generals, destroyed empires in weeks. Napoleon wasn't just winning wars. He was rewriting military doctrine, speed, coordination, and psychological shock. Kings surrendered before battles even began. But here's the problem. Victory became normal. And when winning becomes expected, risk becomes invisible. Napoleon invaded Spain believing it would be easy. It wasn't. Spanish guerrillas didn't fight like armies. They ambushed, they vanished. Supply lines collapsed. Soldiers were hunted. Napoleon called Spain an ulcer, a wound that wouldn't heal, but instead of adapting, he ignored it. Because something worse was coming. And he didn't see it. In 1812, Napoleon invaded Russia with over 600,000 men, the largest army ever assembled. Russia refused to fight. They retreated, burned cities, destroyed food. Napoleon marched deeper. The cold came. Hunger followed. The army disintegrated. By the time Napoleon retreated, fewer than 100,000 survived. It wasn't just a military defeat. It shattered the myth. Napoleon was not invincible. And Europe moved in for the kill. Napoleon was forced to abdicate, exiled to Elba, a small island. But even there, his mind never rested. In 1815, he escaped, returned to France. The army joined him instantly. This became legend. The 100 Days. One last gamble. But destiny had shifted. At Waterloo, Napoleon faced a united Europe. The battlefield was muddy. Delays ruined timing. And for the first time, Napoleon hesitated. That hesitation cost him everything. The enemy struck. The empire collapsed. This time, there would be no escape. Napoleon was exiled again, this time to St. Helena, a remote island in the middle of the ocean. No army, no power, no audience. He spent his final years rewriting his story, trying to control how history would remember him. He died in 1821, but his legacy never died. Napoleon proved that talent can defeat birth, that ambition can reshape the world, and that unchecked belief can destroy even the greatest minds. He conquered Europe, but he could not conquer himself. And that is why Napoleon Bonaparte still matters. Because history doesn't fear failure. It fears men who believe they are unstoppable,